Hey Fred, Jerry here, taking a look at the box office results for this past weekend, December 5th through December 7th. And what a surprising weekend. And it was really a weekend that really sent one message, which is critics don't know shit when it comes to making money at the box office sometimes, because a movie that had really received scathing reviews, and I've heard nothing good about because I've actually watched a few of the reviews here from other YouTube creators, other YouTube critics, and apparently this movie really sucks, but yet sucked its way, I guess you could say. I don't know, that sounds bad, but it did. It sucked so bad that it became the number one movie. So, going to go down, break down all those figures here as we do each and every week for the few of you that end up watching this video, anyways. You know what? I do these videos every week because I actually enjoy talking about box office grosses. And hopefully one day there will be enough people around to justify me actually spending the time on doing these videos. But until then, I'm just going to do what's fun to me, and that is talking about all the numbers from the box office. But before I do dig into the figures, I would appreciate it if you go ahead and subscribe to my channel, as well as like and share this video. Every little click that you make really does help, and it's absolutely free to do. So I really do appreciate all of your support. Okay, so let's talk about Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Oh my God, the reviews have been terrible for this movie. It's currently sitting at a 12% Rotten Tomato score. The cinema score is a little bit better, doing a B. Now, keep in mind, the original Five Nights at Freddy's, which came out a couple years ago, that one actually is sitting at a pretty bad 33% Rotten Tomato score. But yet, Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I'm just going to start saying Freddy's 2 because this title is just too long to even bother trying to spit out right now. But Freddy's 2 right now sitting at a 12% Rotten Tomato score. How terrible. The projections on this movie was right around 40 to 50 million. You know what? The first movie surprised everyone when it came out 2 years ago in October, opening to 80 million its opening weekend, even though the movie itself had also been streamed same day on Peacock. Still doing 80 million opening weekend was pretty awesome. Well, Freddy's 2 didn't quite match that number, but did surprise with 63 million and actually taking over first place. Last week, I really thought there was a really good chance that Zootopia 2 would end up retaining first place. It did not happen. Freddy's 2, 63 million, enough for first place, playing on a little over 3,400 screens and making an $18,464 per screen average. Now, globally, the movie has done 109 million. I don't believe it will get to the box office heights that the first one did, because as with Five Nights at Freddy's, the first one, Freddy's 2, I believe, is going to sink and sink fast. The second week drop on Freddy's 1 was, I believe it was 76, 77%, somewhere in that range. I don't see any reason why Freddy's 2 is not going to follow the same trajectory. So, yeah, I see it next weekend even possibly hitting an 80% drop. The only reason it may not make it to that level of a decrease is because there really isn't a whole lot coming out this next week. But, I just don't see, this seems like a very specific fan base that is built into this movie. I think that's why us critics dislike the first one, and apparently even dislike this one even more, because this movie just plainly is not meant for us, but it definitely does have a fan base out there. So Blumhouse still has to be pretty happy with these results. Now, there were a couple of records set, by the way, this weekend. Freddy's 2 had the second biggest opening of the year for Blumhouse and Atomic Monster, behind Conjuring Last Rites, which opened to 84 million over the summer. This is also the biggest opening for a post Thanksgiving theatrical release. So that's kind of cool. And it is the top opening for a December horror release, which was previously held by Scream 2 with 32.9 million in its opening weekend. Of course, that's not adjusted for inflation. If you were to adjust it for inflation, Scream 2 would probably still be the top opening for a December horror release. But Freddy's 2 definitely overperformed, and overperformed enough to take first place. So in second place is last week's number one, Zootopia 2, but still turning out really, really decent numbers, bringing in another $43 million this weekend, a 57% decrease, which is on the low end of what was expected. So still a pretty decent second weekend there. The domestic total for Zootopia 2 so far is over 200 million, so 220.4 million to be precise. And globally, yeah, it's almost to a billion already, sitting at 915.8 million globally. By the time you see this video, Zootopia 2 will probably have already made $1 billion, or at least is even closer. I think it's a certainty that it's going to get there. In third place, we have Wicked for Good, which is really a mixed bag at the box office, the way I'm looking at it. It did bring in 16.7 million this weekend, and I actually had to check this next figure to make sure that this was correct, because this seemed really, really high for a third week drop. But Wicked for Good's gross dropped compared to last weekend 75%. 75 fucking percent. What is going on with this movie? Wicked for Good is so front loaded. I don't even know if this movie is going to be making any money come Christmas or New Year's. However, domestically, it has already brought in close to 300 million, 296.9 million domestically to be exact. But here's the interesting thing about this gross. Right now, it is trailing behind the box office gross of The Wicked that was released last year. And I kind of saw this happening last week, that even after its second week, although Wicked for Good held a slim lead over the predecessor's gross, I had a feeling that the predecessor was going to take over this weekend. That is exactly what happened. I don't believe Wicked for Good is going to outgross the predecessor. Now the only question is, how much below does it gross? Now, I just did a video uh, discussing the Golden Globes. I did a live reaction video to the Golden Globe nominations. And the reason I bring this up is because I believe that it is a very decent possibility that Wicked for Good, when all is said and done, and it comes Oscar time, and it comes time to the for the Oscar nominations to be announced, I think there is a perhaps even a more than decent chance that Wicked for Good is actually going to underperform during award season as well when compared to its predecessor. You know, it's really a special sequel that is able to carry on an Oscar legacy movie after movie. You know, James Cameron is also going to be trying to do it with Avatar Fire and Ash. I think that Wicked for Good, given its sort of front loaded, tepid response, especially in the weeks following the release, it just doesn't seem like last year when everybody at this time was talking about Wicked. It's all anybody could talk about. It doesn't seem like you're hearing that same kind of clamoring this year. There are other movies out there that are actually kind of controlling the conversation a little bit more. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens to Wicked for Good during award season. But right now, as far as the box office gross goes, I think that if I were the studio, I'd be a little bit disappointed in the financial results of the sequel. Of course, they still might make money, and it's a bottom line business, so the studio will probably be happy just that it wasn't a loss. But, so as of this week, anyways, Wicked for Good is being outgrossed by its predecessor. In fourth place, another anime movie, another surprise appearance in the top five. This movie is called Jujutsu Kaisen Execution, and please forgive me if I butchered the pronunciation. I think I may have actually done okay, though. But this movie did $10.1 million this weekend on only a little over 1,800 screens. That was enough for a $5,540 per screen average. So another anime sleeper. There's been quite a few of these movies. Speaking of, and I was just talking about the Golden Globes, K-pop Demon Hunters and Demon Slayer, the other anime movie that came out, received a couple of nominations at the Golden Globes as well. So anime having a really good 2025. I'll be honest, in case you couldn't tell by the way I'm discussing this, I am not an anime fan, but I am a fan of movies that just kind of come out of nowhere and do well. I mean, I guess we call them sleepers. And perhaps these aren't sleepers because I do know that the anime fan base, even here in America, is huge. And we're seeing it here in the box office results, especially here in 2025. In many ways, the anime movies have saved a couple of really potentially just deadly slow weeks at the box office. So, anime pulling through as well in the top five this week. And then rounding out our top five is Now You See Me, Now You Don't. That's a former number one. I have not seen any of the Now You See Me movies, but I got to tell you, just kind of watching this one, kind of just sort of becoming a sleeper and, just sort of hanging around the box office charts kind of makes me want to dig into these movies. So I will go ahead and watch this trilogy. But Now You See Me, Now You Don't, adding another 3.5 million to its coffers, dropping 49%, and domestically right now sitting at $55.3 million, and a little bit more. I believe it's hit over 100 million, I believe, now globally. If I am wrong or whatever, I will put that number on the screen. But yeah, so I think the studio's got to be pretty happy with the results. All things considering, these were never blockbuster movies like Avatar blockbuster, but they were kind of mid movies that just kind of did decent for a few weeks, did well on streaming. Okay, a couple other notables on the charts this week. Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, which is the Quentin Tarantino, basically Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 jammed together, a little bit of added footage. This thing is a 4.5 hour movie, I believe, 5 hour movie. This thing is long, okay? But it did end up in sixth place. I got to be honest with you, this movie did a lot better than I thought it would do, just given the length. And just given the length means that there's going to be less show times at the theater. But not only that, but who wants to spend 5 hours sitting in a movie theater? I mean, including an intermission. And then if you go to AMC and you have the half-hour trailers, I mean, you could spend almost an entire afternoon or evening watching Kill Bill. But it did end up in sixth place this weekend, bringing in $3.3 million on almost 1,200 screens, and bringing in a little bit over $2,700 for a per screen average. So I think that's pretty impressive, actually. The other one I thought was kind of interesting this weekend was the performance of Hamnet, which did really, really well with the Golden Globe nominations. Did really, really well last week with Critics' Choice. And I know Jessie Buckley is the front runner already to win Best Actress for this movie, who is also playing, by the way, she's playing the bride in next year's The Bride, the one that's being directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. So, Jessie Buckley is having a great time right now, I'm sure. Well, Hamnet this past weekend, ended up in eighth place. Doesn't sound that spectacular. 2.3 million, played on about 744 screens, okay? But had an increase in its box office gross from the prior week of 147%. And I know that sounds really like it could be impressive. Well, it gained like over 700 screens. So obviously the box office gross would be reflective in that. But to do over 2 million this weekend, ending up in eighth place, I think that this could be that box office performer, that awards performer that actually has a really decent holiday season at the box office. Because I think from what I've heard, and I am really excited to see this movie, but from what I've heard, Hamnet is a crowd pleaser. All right, ticket sales this past weekend, 150 million, which is a post-Thanksgiving record. And it was actually a little bit over 150 million total box office. Um, this is the real impressive part, though. This past weekend, the total box office for the year hit $8 billion for the third time since 2020, and is 9 billion possible? They are actually able to ask that question because, of course, we have James Cameron's Avatar Fire and Ash opening up here real soon. We also have Marty Supreme opening up real soon. So we have a couple of movies that could actually potentially do real well. And in the case of Avatar, do really, really well. So is 9 billion possible? Well, if so, the last time that we were able to hit 9 billion was in 2023, and I'm talking post-COVID year, was in 2023, and that was the year that Barbenheimer was released. So if we get there this year, we won't have a Barbie and an Oppenheimer to point to. It will be more of a collective effort. So, the last few weeks have made this possible. We've actually had a few surprises. Now, I don't think next week we're going to be adding as much to the box office gross, because the only thing that's really slated to open wide next week has kind of a very niche market, I think, and that is the remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night, which comes out on Friday. Not really expecting much in the ways of box office. I don't really foresee this one doing Terrifier 3 level business, but stranger things have happened. I do know that in our horror community that there has been some really, really good buzz around this horror film. I'm actually really excited to see it. I will confess, I have not seen any of the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies. So this week I'm going to have to make it a point to see at least one or two of them, definitely the original, because I am going to check out the remake. And perhaps Santo and I will even do a review for the remake on our other channel, Movie Haunts, which, by the way, I will leave the link to our channel, Movie Haunts, in the description. We'd love to have you over there if you're a fan of the horror genre. So I would predict this next weekend to kind of be a drop in business. Silent Night, Deadly Night comes out, makes $50 million. I don't know. We just might get to that 9 billion mark. All right, my friend, that's going to be it for this video. I do appreciate you being here with me. But once again, if you do enjoy my content, I would really appreciate it if you would go ahead and subscribe to my channel, as well as like and share this video. Every little click really does help. And if you'd love to show your support, as well as earning yourself a ton of rewards, we'd love to have you over on Patreon with us, where regardless of the tier you choose, you will receive a 7-day free trial membership, so you can try all of the rewards, at least most of them anyways, absolutely risk-free. And our Patreon account actually is for both of our channels, this one as well as Movie Haunts. So you get all the exclusives and everything from both channels with just one Patreon membership. So we'd love to see you over there with us as well. And also let me know what you think of this video in the comments. And that is going to be enough of my blabber for now. I really do appreciate you being here with me. I had a great time and I look forward to seeing you again. And until then, that's a wrap.